Now, Google actually has a really cool thing called Project Fi. And what it is it actually works with cell phones. And it's pretty cool because it will use Wi-Fi to do your telephone calls and your text messages. And it makes it a lot cheaper and it makes it a lot less dependent on the cell phone towers. Now it can still use cell phone towers, but kind of the cool thing about it is it's pretty cheap.
Hmm.
Now, I don't know if you've heard of it, but for someone like mom that loves to call people, it's only $20 a month. That includes unlimited calling and texting. And then if you want to add data on top of it, I think it's like another $10 a gigabyte, which is pretty expensive. However, you can use it anywhere. I mean, from what I understand, you can go to Italy and use it. And so it's a really good international plan to have, because the same prices you're paying for in the States and Canada, you get overseas as well, which is pretty cool.
I
The
guess that
problem,
is good. Yeah, it's the international usage, right? That's great.
yeah, it's great. And the fact that you could maybe live in a weird house where you don't get good cell reception and all your phone calls are going through the Wi-Fi. You can do that with AT&T and T and stuff by getting a box that clicks on your router, but this is just
Hmm.
all kind of built in. And apparently they have a lot of agreements with a lot of the public Wi-Fis. So it
Mm.
connects onto things if you're in, a mall or a major hub. Most likely, your phone calls and stuff will be really strong because it's going to be using the local Wi-Fi. Now, the problem with Project Fi, though, is that it's only been supported on a certain amount of Android phones, and mostly Google's phones like the Pixel and the Pixel 3, the Pixel 3 XL, the 2 XL, and then the LG G7, the LG V35, and the Moto G6 and the Moto X4. So that's kind of what the website says is currently available. However, cool news today, Google is going to open up Project Fi to the iPhone, to
Mm.
Samsung phones, and to the OnePlus phone. And so this is kind
So
of a cool thing.
is it baked into the operating system? Is that how it works? Because it sounds like it's more than just an app, or else you could have already had Project Fi. So it sounds like Apple has to put it into iOS.
Well, that's the thing is that they're trying to make it seamless, right? I mean, right now, you and me with our Android phones, we can open up Google Hangouts and do a Wi-Fi call to anybody, anywhere around the world for pretty cheap.
Sure.
And to US and Canada and Mexico, it's free. We have
Hmm.
to open the app though. With Project Fi, it tries to be seamless so that you just open up your dialer and then it calls, but it's calling with the Wi-Fi without you having to tell it to, right?
Hmm.
And so, yeah, in fact, it's in beta right now, with the iPhone. And there's signs that users might run into bugs or be left without some of the Fi's features that are featured in the Android phones. And so, yeah, I was reading the article and it said for sure there's still issues. And it probably has to do with not being able to access the operating system as much as it would like to be.
So, Dan, is it related to Google Voice?
In a sense, I mean, Google Voice is a little bit different. I use Google Voice. It gives me a phone number, and I'm able to do Wi-Fi calls with it as well.
Hmm.
So in that sense, it's very similar. But the cool thing about Project Fi is that it's seamless, and so anyone, including mom, could just pick up a phone and use it, and it would be doing all kinds of free things over Wi-Fi that would typically be locked in a public setting, especially overseas, and you wouldn't even know the wiser.
Yeah, so all you need is Wi-Fi and away you go.
Absolutely. Now, Google Voice still is something that you might want to have if you do have Project Fi because you can call people with it. You can have it so that when they ring your phone, it calls your office phone or five phones at the same time. You can have transcripting for when people leave you messages. There's a lot of really great other features. And then as well, you can always pick a number with a different area code, maybe an East Coast number.
Hmm.
Um, so if you're in California, you could have a different state and people wouldn't know if you had a business. So there's a lot of great things about Google Voice. But back on to Fi though. We're hoping that it gets popular. My hope, though, is that it gets a little cheaper because $10 per gigabyte per month is a little pricey. Now, one of the cool features that they do have now, though, is if you don't use the full gigabyte, or however much you buy, it actually rolls into the next month. And so
Yeah.
before they used to nickel and dime you, but now it just compounds over time.
So here's a question, and it probably just shows that I don't understand what Google Fi is. Um, why data? If you're already on Wi-Fi and you need Wi-Fi for it, then you should already have data.
And I think you do in situations where you have access to the Wi-Fi. However, if you're on a subway system or if you're in the mountains and you're connecting to an actual cell phone tower, you need to pay for the data.
So because they have these contracts with these mobile carriers, you should
Exactly.
still be able to get it even without a Wi-Fi connection, and that's why it's so accessible. Okay, that's good to know.
And one of the things that I'm not 100% sure on, but when it connects maybe to like Radio Shack's Wi-Fi or wherever,
Hmm.
if you're in the mall, it might charge you then too because you normally wouldn't have access, but I'm not 100% sure on that. It could actually be free there too. It's something that I've always wanted to try, but I have such a screaming deal with my current phone that
Yeah,
through Mint Sim, if you guys have ever tried that, they're not paying me to say this, but it's literally 20 bucks a month and I get
yeah,
5 gigabytes of data. So I've just never wanted to
that's
spend more
awesome.
money. Yeah. But for an international person like yourself, I mean, you're constantly in the States and
Yeah.
Canada. Project Fi might make sense, especially since you use Samsung phones.
Well, I've really wanted a Google Voice account, but they won't do it in Canada. And apparently, when it first came out, Canada was included. So, some very lucky people who signed up right at the beginning will still have their Google Voice that's with Canadian numbers. So, I can sign up for an American number, but I don't really want people calling me on an American number because they may be charged long distance if they're trying to call me and they're Canadians. So unfortunately, I've been waiting year after year after year for it to come out in Canada, and I'm still waiting.
Oh, that's frustrating.